I'm Alex Carter, and I should have died the night my car broke down in the rain, but someone or something took my place. And now, every time I close my eyes, I see her, wearing my face, living my life, while I'm trapped in a nightmare that never ends. It started with rain, heavy, endless rain. I had left my aunt's house later than planned, the sky already turning black as the clouds swallowed the last trace of light. The main highway was closed because of flooding, so I had no choice but to take the old county road through the woods. It was narrow, uneven, and barely traveled anymore, just cracked pavement with fading paint and trees pressed in tight on either side. My phone lost signal shortly after I turned onto it. The GPS froze, then blinked out completely. I told myself it was fine. I'd been on this road before, years ago. I could find my way back, but the rain made everything worse. It wasn't just falling, it was slamming the windshield like tiny fists, fast and hard, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The wipers were useless. I leaned forward, squinting at the blur of the road ahead. My headlights reflected off the curtain of water, revealing only shapes, trees, shadows, and sometimes something else. Something I couldn't quite name. I passed an old gas station on the left. It looked abandoned, but there was light flickering inside a faint yellow glow behind smeared windows. The sign above the pump was broken, swinging in the wind. For a second I considered stopping, hoping maybe someone was inside with directions or a working phone, but something about it gave me an uneasy feeling, the kind that starts low in your stomach and slowly crawls up your spine. I kept driving. That's when I saw her, a woman, standing on the shoulder of the road, drenched from head to toe. Her long hair stuck to her face, and her white dress clung to her body, heavy with rain. She didn't move. She didn't look up. She just stood there like she'd grown from the mud and shadows. I passed her in seconds, but the image burned into my eyes. I checked my rearview mirror. She was gone, not walking, not fading into the distance, just gone. There were no side roads, no ditches deep enough to hide in. Nothing but the straight, muddy stretch of road behind me. My heart started pounding. I told myself I'd imagined it. A trick of the rain, a shadow that looked too human. I even laughed, weakly, but the sound of it didn't feel like mine. A few minutes later I came to a fork in the road that hadn't been there before. I slowed down, confused. I didn't remember this turnoff. There were no signs, no landmarks. Just a dirt path veering off into thicker trees. I shouldn't have taken it. I should have backed up and kept going. But something about it pulled at me, not like curiosity. It was more like gravity. My hands turned the wheel without me realizing it. My foot eased off the brake, and I started down the path, the trees growing tighter and the rain louder. As I drove deeper into the woods, a thick fog began to rise from the ground. It swirled around the tires, floated across the hood, and curled against the windows like smoke. I couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. The headlights barely helped. I was wrapped in gray. Then, through the mist, I saw her again. Same woman, same soaked dress, same dead-still posture. She stood in the center of the road now, facing me. This time I could see her face, or rather the lack of it. It was covered in strands of wet hair. But there was something unnatural about the way her head tilted, like it was too heavy or broken. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded in the mud, sliding sideways until it stopped just feet from her. My hands were shaking. I looked again. She was gone. No splash, no sound, just gone. My breathing grew shallow. I gripped the steering wheel and whispered to myself, over and over, that I had to keep going. That she wasn't real. That I was just tired, just lost, just scared. But then the car engine sputtered, coughed, died. The headlights blinked off, and for a heartbeat, everything was black. No engine, no radio, no wipers. Just the sound of rain and my pulse pounding in my ears. Then, in the silence, something tapped against the driver's side window once, twice, 3 slow, deliberate taps. I didn't want to look, I couldn't, but my eyes moved on their own. And right there, pressed to the glass, was a pale soaked hand. Fingers too long, skin gray and bloated, nails cracked like they'd clawed their way out of something deep. The hand slowly slid downward, leaving a trail of water on the glass, and then it was gone. Just like before. I sat frozen in the driver's seat, unable to move, breath fogging the glass, eyes wide and fixed on the spot where that hand had just been. The rain hammered down in thick sheets, drumming against the roof of the car so loudly it sounded like whispering voices above me, all talking at once, all saying things I couldn't understand. The inside of the car felt smaller now, like the air had been drained out, leaving only weight and silence and a sense that something was watching me from just beyond the reach of my headlights even, though they were off now, completely dead. The car wouldn't start. I tried turning the key again and again, but there was no response. No lights on the dash, no hum, not even the click of a dead battery. It was like the car had simply given up. Like something had reached into its chest and pulled the heart out. I didn't want to get out. Every part of me screamed to stay inside, to wait until morning to let the rain pass and daylight return. But deep down I knew that wasn't going to happen. Not here. Not on this road that didn't exist an hour ago. Not in a car that was no longer working in a place where people weren't supposed to be. I reached for the door handle, slowly, like something might bite me if I moved too fast. When I stepped out into the rain, the cold hit me like ice water. It soaked through my clothes in seconds. The fog swirled around my ankles, thick and alive, almost warm against my skin. I walked to the front of the car, hoping maybe something was wrong under the hood, something simple, something human. But when I popped it open, everything looked fine. Clean even. Too clean. No oil stains, no rust. Just parts sitting there like they'd never been used, like the engine had never run at all. That's when I saw the footprints. They were behind the car, bare, human, and fresh. They hadn't been there before. I would have seen them when I got out. But now they stretched out into the woods, 2 at a time, straight into the dark. No shoes, just long toes and heel marks sunk deep in the mud. I stared at them for a long time, rain pouring off the brim of my jacket. Part of me wanted to follow them. Part of me wanted to run in the opposite direction, but I didn't do either. I just stood there until something snapped behind me. A branch, not falling, breaking. I spun around, eyes darting through the trees, heart pounding so loudly it felt like it was trying to get out of my chest. Nothing moved. Not at first. Then I saw something far off between the trees, a shape pale, almost blending with the fog. It looked like her again. But she was crouched now. Crawling. No, not crawling. She pulled herself forward like her legs didn't work. Her arms stretched too far, bending wrong, joints popping quietly under the rain. Her hair hung low, plastered to her face, dragging in the mud. I couldn't see her eyes, but I felt them on me like hands, reaching, pulling. I backed toward the car, one foot sliding slightly in the mud. She stopped, she tilted her head. Then, with sudden speed, she ran. Not toward me, across the road and into the other side of the woods, vanishing into the black. The wind picked up, screaming through the trees, and the rain became a wall. I jumped back into the car, slammed the door, and locked it, even though I knew it wouldn't help. My fingers trembled as I wiped fog from the inside of the windshield. I tried my phone again, still no signal. But this time, the screen flickered. Just for a second, and in that second I saw the home screen wallpaper I'd never set. It was a photo, not of me, but of the back of my head, taken from just behind the driver's seat. I dropped the phone, breath caught in my throat. Then, slowly, I turned to look. The back seat was empty, but the cushion was soaked, as if someone had just been sitting there. I couldn't breathe. My eyes stayed locked on the empty back seat, the soaked cushion seeping slowly through the fabric. A chill spread across my spine, as if the moisture back there had touched me, too, sinking beneath my skin. I didn't understand how it was possible. I hadn't heard the door open. I hadn't seen anything move, but I couldn't deny it anymore. Someone or something had been in the car with me. I opened the door and stepped out again, unable to stay in that space another second. The rain hadn't let up. If anything, it was falling harder, turning the dirt road into a path of sludge. My shoes sank into it with each step. I didn't have a plan, I just knew I couldn't stay there. Not in that car, not after what I saw. I started walking, heading the same way the pale woman had run. My mind told me that was the worst decision I could make, but my body kept moving. It was like I was on a track with no exit, each footstep sinking deeper into something I couldn't escape. The woods seemed to close in around me, the trees bending unnaturally, their limbs clawing at the sky. Then, through the rain, I saw it, a light, faint, flickering. I pushed forward, branches slapping against my face, roots trying to catch my ankles. As I got closer, the light took shape, a cabin, wooden, old, buried deep in the trees. Its porch sagged and one of the windows was boarded up from the inside, but the light, warm and yellow, shined through a crack in the curtains. I didn't hesitate. I climbed the steps and pushed the door open. It wasn't locked. Inside it was dry but smelled like old rotten wet leaves. Dust floated in the air like ash. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, faded with water stains. A single oil lamp sat on a crooked table, casting flickering shadows that stretched too far across the floor. The door creaked shut behind me on its own. I turned around quickly, heart pounding, but no one was there. The room was still, but something felt wrong, like the cabin was waiting for me, or maybe it had been calling me all along. That's when I saw the footprints again, wet ones, bare feet, pressed into the warped wooden floor, leading from the door to a staircase at the back of the room. But something didn't add up. There were too many, not just one person's prints, but several overlapping, scattered, some going up, some coming down. I followed them cautiously, each step echoing too loud in the small room. The staircase groaned beneath my weight. At the top was a narrow hallway with 3 doors. The air up there was colder, heavy like fog had made its way inside. The first door on the left was cracked open. I pushed it gently. Inside was a bedroom. Small, sparse, a bed, a mirror, and a rocking chair that swayed slowly even though the air was still. I stepped closer to the mirror and froze. It didn't reflect me. It reflected the room, the furniture, the walls, but where I should have been, there was nothing, just an empty space. I waved my hand in front of it, but the mirror showed no movement. I turned to look behind me, just to confirm I was really there, and when I looked back at the mirror, there was someone standing in the reflection. Not me. Her soaked dress, gray skin, dark hair hanging over her face. I turned around. The room was empty. I turned back to the mirror. She was closer. I stumbled back, heart thudding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I backed out of the room and slammed the door shut. Something inside the walls moaned, deep and hollow. Then I noticed the photographs. They were taped along the hallway walls, dozens of them. Each one was of me. In places I recognized my house, my job, even at the gas station earlier that week. All taken from a distance, all in black and white. My stomach turned as I realized one of them was from just minutes ago, me getting out of my car on this very road. Someone had been watching me for a long time. A sound came from behind the last door, a dragging sound, slow, heavy, getting closer. The dragging sound behind the last door sent a jolt through my chest like someone had reached in and squeezed my heart. I stared at the doorknob, frozen, every muscle in my body tight. The hallway around me felt like it was shrinking, the walls pressing in inch by inch, forcing me closer to that final room. The dragging continued, soft, rhythmic, like something heavy being pulled across wood. Wetness pooled at the bottom of the door and leaked into the hallway, as if the room itself was bleeding rainwater. I backed away, footsteps creaking louder than they should have. I didn't want to open that door. I didn't want to know what was behind it, but I also couldn't leave. Somehow I knew that the second I turned around, something would be behind me, watching, waiting. So I moved forward, slowly. My fingers brushed the doorknob. It was cold, too cold, like touching metal that had been buried in snow. I turned it and pushed the door open. Inside was nothing but mirrors, dozens of them, tall, wide, warped, some cracked, some spotless. They covered every inch of the walls, and every one of them showed the same thing. Not me, her. She stood in the center of the room, in every reflection, even though the floor in front of me was empty. In the mirrors, she was staring directly at me. Face pale, hollow, water dripping from her mouth, her eyes black and wide, didn't blink. Her fingers twitched at her sides, long and sharp, like nails had grown too far and too fast. Then I noticed something worse. In the reflections, she was getting closer, not walking, just appearing, one mirror after another. A step here, a blink there, closer, closer. I turned around. I stood up, trying not to step on the strange marks on the floor. My heart was beating fast. The woman was still at the stairs. She was wet from head to toe, holding my phone in her hand. Her skin looked pale and sick, like she had been underwater for a long time. Her smile was not normal, it stretched too far, like her mouth wasn't made for smiling. Her lips were cracked, and her face didn't move. She didn't blink. She just stared at me, silent. She held out the phone toward me. The screen was still glowing. It lit up her face in the dark. I slowly moved back, scared to even blink. My hands touched the floor behind me. It was wet, cold. I looked down and saw the photos were gone. Now the floor was covered in deep carvings, strange shapes and symbols. I didn't know what they meant. Circles, sharp lines, faces with no eyes. It looked like someone had scratched them into the wood using their fingernails. I got up quickly and walked toward the hallway, but something was wrong. The woman was breathing now, not like normal breathing. It was rough and strange, like a broken sound, coming from her neck instead of her mouth. Every time she breathed, the flame from the oil lamp shook, like she was pulling the air out of the room. I turned to run, but the cabin felt different. The walls looked longer, the doorways smaller. It was like the house was changing. My steps felt heavy, like the floor wanted to hold me down. At the back of the room I saw a mirror. It was old and had a wooden frame with rusty nails sticking out. I looked inside. It didn't show me. It showed her, but not like before. In the mirror she looked alive, dry, normal. She smiled at me, a soft, cold smile. I took a step back. Suddenly the oil lamp flickered again. I looked behind me. She was gone. No one on the stairs. The phone was now lying on the floor, the screen still on. A video started playing by itself. It was dark at first, then it showed headlights, my car, me walking in the rain. It showed everything. Someone had been recording me the whole time. From behind the trees, from inside the car, even inside the cabin. I saw myself falling to the floor. Then the screen went black, and a word appeared. Stay. I looked up from the phone. She was back in the mirror, but this time there were more people behind her. A crowd, all of them looked like me. Same face, same clothes, same dead eyes. They stared at me through the glass, their faces pressed against the mirror like they wanted to come out. I panicked and ran. Through hallways, through doors, the cabin twisted around me. Everything went dark. Then suddenly I was back. In my car. It wasn't raining. I was dry. The engine was running. Everything seemed normal. I looked at my hands. No blood, no mud. Had it all been a dream? Then my phone buzzed. A message appeared. New wallpaper set. I unlocked the screen. There was a new photo. It showed the cabin, the hallway, and in the middle of the picture, me sitting on the floor smiling, scratching those strange marks into the wood, like I had always lived there. I scrambled to my feet and stumbled toward the hallway, refusing to look at her again. But no matter how fast I moved, the house seemed to shift with me. The hallway stretched longer than before. Doorways multiplied. The corners turned in ways that made no sense. I tried to count the steps. tried to follow the layout, but nothing added up. It was like I'd stepped outside of time. And then I heard the dripping again. Not from the ceiling this time. From the walls, it was coming from inside them. I pressed my ear against the paneling only for a second, and I heard voices, dozens, whispering my name, over and over. Some calm, some desperate, some angry. I tore away, hands shaking. I needed out. I needed to leave, whatever it took. A door appeared to my right. One I hadn't seen before. It was wide open. I stepped inside. It was a bathroom. Small, cracked mirror over a rusted sink. Broken tiles. A tub against the far wall, half filled with dark water. Black hair floated on the surface. Not like someone had been bathing, like something had been rotting in it. The hair moved. I backed out slowly, pulling the door shut behind me. My body felt numb, like the cold of the rain had seeped inside and taken root in my bones. The hallway lights, if they were ever real, flickered once and died. I was in darkness again. The only light came from behind me, the faint glow of the phone still clutched in the woman's hand. I turned, expecting to see her down the hall where I'd left her. She wasn't there. The light was closer now. Too close. She was standing just a few feet away, directly behind me, arm still outstretched, phone glowing in her hand. She didn't move, didn't speak, but her mouth was still open, wider than before, wider than it should be. From it came a sound, not a scream, not a breath, but something in between. A whisper carried by a hurricane. It filled the hall and shook the walls. I pressed my hands to my ears and ran, blind, crashing into corners, pushing through doors, climbing stairs that hadn't been there before. And suddenly, I was outside, just like that, standing in the middle of the road. No cabin behind me, no trees, no rain, just a smashed car in front of me. Smoke curled from its engine. The passenger door flung open. I staggered toward it, barefoot now, my clothes soaked, but not with rain. I didn't want to look inside. Every part of me screamed not to look, but I did. There I was, limp, neck bent at an impossible angle, eyes wide, lifeless, mouth open like it had been trying to scream when everything went dark. I stumbled back, heart thundering, breath catching in my throat, and that's when I saw it. The cabin, reappearing behind the trees, just barely visible, and at the edge of the woods, standing beside a crooked sign I hadn't noticed before, was the woman. Only now, I wasn't sure she was someone else at all. She looked like me, not soaked or bloated, but exactly like me. Same face, same eyes, same expression of distant dread. She smiled, raised the phone again. The screen lit up, and on it, a new photo. One I hadn't taken, me standing in the middle of the road, staring at my own corpse. The phone screen cracked, and everything went black.